I would highly encourage it. I think it's a fantastic space for us to be at. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. What we're going to talk about today is this concept of local search. So it's a subset of search engine optimization, and this is a really big topic. But I'm going to try to hit the highlights today, go down into, cover as much as I can in some of the key areas. But there is a lot that we're going to go through. Some of the slides are literally just statistics, so I'll probably blow through those pretty quickly. You will be able to get a copy of these slides I'll show you how at the very end of the presentation. So feel free to do that. Really, when I think about getting found online as a local business, meaning either people come to your place of business or I serve an area, like I'm a service area contractor and I cover a 25-mile radius. What I mean by this idea of local search is when somebody types in a product or a service with a location. Then they're going to get a different kind of search results typically, and there are certain things that you can do, and most businesses really need to take advantage of this if that's the type of business they are. So what we're going to talk about today, if you're an online business, an e-commerce store that people buy all over the U.S. or the world, some of this stuff will pertain, but it's really much more focused to local businesses. And so, having a website is still absolutely critical. It is the one place that you own and control online, so don't neglect that. Think about what you need to have in place for a website. That's changing very rapidly, so we'll touch a little bit upon that. This idea of getting listed is not something that's very obvious to most people that I talk to, so I definitely want to spend a little bit of time on that. Getting online reviews is absolutely critical for a local business. It is the #1 factor in my opinion. If you do it well and you have a program in place to make that happen. And then there's content that you have to think about creating and optimizing, so we'll touch a little bit upon that. So to get started, this whole idea of search engine optimization, it's really, when you do a search result, what you typically are going to see on that search results page is, depending on the type of business or the type of search that you're doing, you might see that Google Map result show up. Have you guys all seen the Google Map? You might see ads, probably will see ads most of the time when you do a search up at the very top. Google is actually now delivering 2 different types of ads, so we'll talk a little bit about that now. One is called Adwords, the other is called a local service ad, so we'll touch upon that. And all of this, unfortunately, is displayed before you even get to what we call the organic search listings, which is where you pay, or where you do not have to pay, and your keywords and your content is going to, and the inbound links and everything that you've done for your website is going to help you show up in a Google search. So really, the prime real estate for most local businesses is going to be that Google Map result, and so we're going to talk about that quite a bit throughout this talk, and then hopefully share some ideas on how you can improve that. It's amazing when you think about it, the number of searches. I think Google has 70 or more of the percent of all searches that are done online still, and it's only growing. Bing, which also delivers search results for Yahoo, covers maybe 18 to 20% depending on the statistics that you're looking at. So Google is absolutely king, and so when I do a talk like this, I always focus on Google first, but don't ever forget about the power of Bing and Yahoo, because they are still 20% of search traffic added together, and it may be easier for you to rank for 20% of the traffic because it's a lot less competitive than maybe trying to get ranked on Google. So, mobile has also become a really critical factor. Right now, we're seeing on average across industries, 60% or more of all searches are done from a mobile device. When you factor in searches that are done from a voice search on a mobile, not talking about the Alexa type searches, those are important too, but that's a different topic for a different day. When somebody does a voice search, they may ask a search differently than they would type it into a search engine. And also the phone is going to recognize where somebody's located if they have the location settings turned on. So those are factors that are going to determine, in part, what your search results are going to show up. This idea of proximity is one that Google, in their Google My Business property, talks about. So we're going to circle back to that when we talk about the Google My Business page here in just a minute. When I look at search engine optimization, I kind of break it out in really 4 high-level buckets there. The search engine optimization, the classic things that you do. This is creating content, it's focusing on building inbound links, it's the maintenance of your website to take care of, make sure you don't have any broken links or any pages that aren't connected to anything else on your website. Making sure that nobody else has added some spammy content to your website, because believe me, that happens probably more than you guys realize. Those are things that we're not going to be able to get to today. The heart and soul is going to be talking about these things that we do for local optimization, and then this idea of reputation management, which I view reputation management as a combination of online reviews and getting yourself listed in the right places online. Those send tremendous trust signals to the search engines. So ultimately it's all about, how can you help position yourself to show up on the map results? There are literally hundreds and hundreds of these directory listings that are important to be listed on, and there's a right way to be able to take that on. And then any content that you create, I think more than 50% of all searches that are done now are 4-word or longer search phrases that people are typing in. Partly because people are asking questions of the search engines more and more, so it could be a search like Mexican restaurant near me, that's 4-word search. It could be Mexican restaurant St. Charles, that's a 4-word search. But people are adding qualifiers, and so the overwhelming average of searches is what we consider to be this long tail keyword phrase, and that's really just typically a 4-word or longer search phrase that people are typing in. So when you think about it in the context of local search, that is almost always going to include adding some kind of a geographic qualifier. So it could be St. Louis, it could be St. Louis County, it could be a very specific neighborhood in some cases, and obviously the search traffic varies widely from those different types of searches. But that's what I mean by this long tail citation, a long tail keyword concept. When you think about search engine optimization, this is a graphic that I try to put together. So the little map down in the bottom left-hand corner, that's Gerald, Missouri, and I don't know why I picked on Gerald, Missouri. Sorry if anybody's here from Gerald, but I just thought it was an interesting place because I could get it to show up in the corner of the big map. And I drew an arc. So if somebody's doing a search in St. Louis, if you think about the way search engine optimization really works, and this is the broad definition of search engine optimization, the more pages you have on your website, the more likelihood you have an opportunity to rank for search. Every page really has, 1 or 2 really core keyword concepts that you can get that page to rank for. And so, a common mistake I see a lot of local businesses make is that they don't have enough content, they don't have enough pages on their website. So that's an important consideration. When you look at the way St. Louis shows up on a map, it looks like a hub, right? I mean, it's a place where there are a bunch of highways that come in, there are different kinds of highways, there are interstates, there are county roads, there are, neighborhood streets that are all going in there. And then you look at a town like Gerald where there's a U.S. highway and maybe a county road. Well, I want you to think about these roads like they're links from other websites. And the road, the different type of road is the quality of the link that Google or another search engine is going to put on that road. How important is that road to telling me what I need to know about the place I'm going? And so, the interstates are obviously going to be what we would call authoritative websites, links from authoritative websites. where Google has a high level of trust, there's a lot of content, and the content is probably really relevant to the website that they're linking to. You know, the Chamber of Commerce website is an example of a great local website that if you're a member of the chamber, having them link to your website is going to be more than just a street in a neighborhood. It's going to be a county highway, or it's going to be a Missouri highway. It's not going to be an interstate. I mean, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch is probably one of the interstate type of links that you would think about. Think about it in the combination of total number of pages and then these links that are coming from other websites to yours. Hopefully that's a helpful analogy. So we talked a little bit about this. Italian restaurant in St. Charles, thanks to Frankie Toco's across the street who provided the pizza via the OPO today. That inspired this search because I knew that's what we were going to have today. And you'll see what happens. In this particular case, the top search result that I got was actually this Google map. I didn't get any ads or anything like that. What's interesting is that when somebody does a search for something like this, overwhelmingly they make a decision to buy within a 5-mile radius, 72%, when you do a local search with a geographic qualifier. So it's really important. I know the feeling for a lot of businesses is that they want to be found for St. Louis or St. Charles. Honestly, you may have a greater opportunity to focus in really on the proximity of where your business is located, especially if it's a place of business that people come to. Then it becomes critically important because the statistics show the majority of people who are going to go to a place of business are probably only going to travel, 5 or 10 miles typically. Obviously that's going to change. If you're out in Wentzville or Wright City, farther away, you might drive a little bit farther, but in general, that's kind of what we see. And so this is an example of a restaurant, a place of business that somebody would go to. Here's an example of an air conditioner repair company in Independence, Missouri. So what happened when I did this search is you'll see those rectangular boxes across the top. That's a new set of ads that Google's been running over the last year, and it's rolling out to more and more services type contractors, so roofers, plumbers, HVAC, locksmiths. Google is actually displaying those ads at the top. That's a prime real estate if you're in that kind of business. It doesn't really pertain to a place of business yet, and I don't see that Google's these type of ads won't ever apply to a place of business that somebody would go to. But if you're a roofer or a plumber or somebody who serves an area where you travel to your customer, these are really important ads to think about moving forward. These are pay-per-lead ads. They're not pay-per-click, so that's a different model from Google as well. Home Advisor or Angie's List has been doing some pay-per-lead type advertising for a while, so Google has now adopted this, and this is Google's strategy. And you see where Google's putting the priority on this. They're putting it at the very top. Even before the classic Google ads, which used to be called Google Adwords. So if you're serving an area, you're going to have the service area ads first, then you're going to have Google ads if anybody's choosing to run those, and then you're going to have the map results. All of this is before you can't even see it on your computer screen. You literally have to scroll down below the map before you start to see an individual company and their website listed in what we call the organic listings. So I wanted to make sure you guys were all aware of that. There really are some interesting fundamental differences between a service area business and a place of business that people go to. Does that make sense? How many people here are in a business where people come to your place of business? Okay. And how many of you are in a service area business where you go to your customers? Okay. And you can do both. You can certainly do both. And so if that's the case, then both are going to apply to you. Getting listed is really critical. So Google gives you a free business listing. It's called GoogleMyBusiness.com or Google My Business. You can find it. If you haven't claimed it, first thing you should do as soon as you leave here is go to google.com/business, put in your business name, and claim your business. Once you've claimed it, you're going to have to go through a verification process, so Google's going to send you a postcard most likely. Sometimes they still call you, although that's getting less and less frequent. Sometimes they're going to ask for proof that you're a real business located there, so they may ask for you through the approval process to go take a picture of signage out front, or to show them a utility bill to prove that you're physically located there, because this is a free spot and there are so many people who abuse these where they create these false business listings. So it's a real problem, and Google is trying to do its best to deliver the highest quality results that it can, right? I mean, if Google started delivering bad search results, you guys are going to start using something else. You're not going to continue to use Google. So Google really wants to deliver, for whatever else you think about Google, one of the things that keeps Google in business is delivering the highest quality search results that it can deliver. If you're going to, once you claim your Google My Business page, fill out everything that you can. Upload the pictures that it asks for. Never use stock photos. Use real photos of your business, your employees, your logos, stuff like that. Don't ever use a stock photo on a Google My Business page. But you can also now do posts from your Google page, your Google My Business page. I would encourage you to do that. We don't know how much that helps with overall search engine optimization, but look, if Google gives you the capability to do it, I recommend you take advantage of it. Google pays attention to how active you are, how frequently you're updating content, in pictures or running specials. You can actually do offers through your Google My Business page using the Google Post feature. There's also a great app that you can use to manage your Google My Business page from your phone. And ultimately, this is where people can go write reviews about your business on Google. And bar none, Google reviews carry more weight for local businesses than any other site, unless you're just a very hyper-focused niche. Your Google My Business reviews are going to be the things that are going to help you show up on that Google Map result. And we'll talk more about this in just a second. Getting your name, address, and phone number consistent and correct is another really important consideration. Making sure you claim your primary Google business category in your Google My Business page. All of these things are super, super important. But make sure you go fill out your Google My Business page as thoroughly as you can. So when Google looks at a Google My Business page, what it does is it uses these three criteria to kind of determine who it's going to display when somebody does a search. So the first is relevance. I want you to think about, I'll come back to that because I have a slide that goes into some detail about that. The next is distance or proximity. Google used to call it distance. Now everybody's talking about it as proximity, so I might use those interchangeably. The third is prominence. And in the case of prominence, it has to do with the reputation that Google associates with your business online. So this idea of relevance is going to come from the content you have on your website and the content that Google can find everywhere else on the web to see if it can make sense of what your business is. And if it finds confusing information on other websites about what your business is, the address, the phone number, your hours of operation, your business category, if it finds anything that's not consistent, it confuses Google and it just erodes the confidence in the information about your business online. So it's going to pull from your website. If your primary business category is a plumber or plumbing contractor, and your website doesn't say anything about being a plumbing contractor. It talks about emergency plumbing services, and it talks about some of the other things that a plumber might do. You've missed a little bit of an opportunity. I think it's really important to make sure you have content on your website that matches exactly the category that Google allows you to set up your business under. Now, you can pick more than one category. You can have multiple categories. I wouldn't go crazy with it, and absolutely don't pick anything that you don't do. to try and hijack traffic, you know, that for maybe a business that's kind of sort of like what you do, but not exactly, because you probably aren't going to have the relevant information in the rest of the places online. The other big place that Google gets relevance from, and this is something that I think is really easy for a lot of people to overlook if you aren't dealing with this stuff on a daily basis like we are all these directory listings. There are directories out there, City Search, local.com. There's a Chamber of Commerce directory that has nothing to do with any of the Chamber of Commerces that you know of. It's literally an online directory and it's not associated with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's just a website somebody created and they have business information there. And so you really should do a scan of how your business is listed online and fix any of those inconsistencies, because those inconsistencies, that bad data really hurts your business. And then, you know, there are other websites, so like if you're a member of a trade association, there might be information about your business on that trade association websites. So all of those are going to be the things that feed this relevance idea that ties into your Google My Business page, which is the representation of, you know, where Google places you on that map result. It's now more, I mean, it's more than just your website. It's actually, you've got to think about it in terms of digital presence, because you have information scattered all across the web now. And so the extent that you manage that and take ownership and control of that and make that consistent and accurate has a really big factor. So as a matter of fact, you know, because of the information that's available online, if you're looking at your Google Analytics, you might see that a lot of traffic is starting to come not just from Google searches, but from some of these apps that people might have, or from your Google My Business page. People might find your website by seeing you on the Google Map result, clicking on the website button on your Google Map result, or Apple Maps, or whatever. Yelp, you know, Yelp is still a really important business listing site for almost every type of business. As a matter of fact, if you do a search for top type of company in a city, one of the first organic search results you're probably going to see is a Yelp article written about the top 10 of that type of business in that particular city. And so, you know, while Yelp is a challenge, and you know, they really want to give the control and ownership to the users, not to the business. So from a marketing perspective, it's really hard to control your Yelp page. It's really important to understand how it works, and it's a critical component. You know, if you're a service area contractor as opposed to a place of business that people go, you might see a site like Angie's List or Home Advisor or Thumbtack playing a similar role to maybe what to what Yelp might do typically in the place of business type businesses that are there, the brick and mortars. The keys for having a business listing are going to be consistency. So you want to get your name, address, and phone number exactly the same in as many places as you can. And I mean exactly. The way you abbreviate suite, the way you abbreviate street should be consistent from one place to the next. The more consistent and accurate the search engines can find this information listed across all these directories, the higher level of trust it's going to demonstrate. The more directories that you're listed in general is better. The more relevant the directories that you're listed in is also a factor. So if you're an attorney, you definitely want to think about being listed on, different attorney directory sites. There are several that are out there. You might have to hunt for them. There are association sites like we talked about. There's a local Chamber of Commerce for a general business directory, but a localized business directory. So think about all those. This idea of duplicates is really a little bit misleading. They're not 100% duplicate listings, but they're multiple listings for your business. And it confuses not only the search engines, it also confuses the consumers. And the reason that you have these duplicate listings is like, well, I never created that. We've got a customer right now that we're working with that has another Google My Business page that's out there that we have to find a way to either merge that page with the real Google My Business page, or we have to get that page deleted because it's got different information. And that different information means that somebody might make a phone call to a bad phone number. And they may reach out, they may think, I tried to call these people and they never called me back. They may never have even actually got a hold of your business, but they think they did. And so you're missing a business opportunity as a result of that. So bad data can definitely factor in from that perspective. But it also does, like I said, it hurts the trust that the search engines place in that data, because these are typically strong authority websites, meaning they're websites that Google looks for specifically to say, yeah, this is an accurate place where I know business is listed. The reason that happens, this slide kind of shows that there are so many reasons why. It could be the way you filed your business name with the Missouri Secretary of State is different than a doing business name that you might have, and so there are those kinds of inconsistencies. You just need to manage this stuff and don't take it for granted. So we talked a little bit about duplicates, so we'll kind of skip through that because I kind of get down into the weeds. So stop me if I'm going too far into the weeds. There are a couple of different reasons why you have bad data. One is because there are bad data sources that have incorrect information that are publishing data on your behalf because they do their own research. You never even did it. You never even claimed that business directory listing, but it got created. And there are people who do that all the time, and they may have typed your phone number incorrectly. They may have switched a couple of numbers. That kind of stuff happens. And then also, there are sources that try to merge data from multiple sources, and so when they merge that data, they get weird, almost these Franken listings where these things don't really match up. So the end result is it's still bad data. It's still confusing. So just again, remember this acronym: name, address, phone number. Really, every time you see your business listed online, just look at the name, address, phone number, and see if it's consistent and the same from one place to the next. In some cases, you're going to have to live with the format that, Facebook may have a different format for the way you list your name, address, phone number information than your Google My Business page might. I would tend to say, if it were me, the advice I would give is use the information that you have to put into your Google My Business page, and that is the master way you should list your business information everywhere online. Because I think Google is king in this regard. So let's talk about prominence. Prominence has to do with online reviews. Online reviews are probably the biggest factor that you have control over as a business to impact the way that you're going to show up on these local search results. So I recommend take ownership of this process. Don't just let it happen. Drive people to write Google reviews. Google reviews should always be the first place you send people to write reviews. Again, unless you have a really very specific niche type business. As a restaurant, you can't ignore Yelp. You can't ask and drive people specifically to go to write a review on Yelp. But you can put signs up in your restaurant to say, review us on Yelp. You can do those kinds of things, but you can't overtly send them a link and say, here, go write a review for me on Yelp, because Yelp really frowns on that. Again, you have to be careful doing that in general, but make it really easy. Don't make people have to search to find how to go write a review for you.
Excuse me, I've got a question. If you get a bad review, is it always a good idea to refute it and answer that review? And you've got that you can do that.
Yes.
Because sometimes you see a bad review at a restaurant, and then the restaurant owner will say, oh, why don't you come in for a free dessert, and we'll show you we can really treat you right.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely critical to do. Google pays attention to that. As a matter of fact, I've got a slide here and a couple of slides that talks about the fact that Google probably adds an additional 0.25% to your composite rating if you're responding to every review that comes in. you have to be careful responding to a negative review. I mean, somebody may be having a bad day. They may have an axe to grind. They may have legitimately had a bad experience. I mean, it's really hard to tell. But still, I think the prudent thing to do is to recognize that they had the experience and then take the conversation online. The rest of the internet is going to see that you reached out, you recognize that somebody had a less than stellar experience, and that you care and you're trying to reach out to them to find a way to make it right. But then take the conversation offline. So give them a phone number or an email address, and then make sure you follow up with them. But don't get back and forth into a discussion online, because that can spiral out of control. And you guys have probably all read horror stories about, these discussions that just escalate. People get madder and madder, and they start getting, more and more curse in their responses back and forth to each other. So be really careful, but yeah, absolutely respond to each and every review, positive as well as negative, because that does definitely help. And Google is paying attention to see if you're monitoring those reviews and responding to those reviews. I'm going to fly through these statistics. Just suffice it to say that the number of people who rely on online reviews to make decisions is staggering. Most people are going to see a review online from a site like Google or Yelp or a trusted review site every bit as strongly as a recommendation from a friend or a family member. You're starting to see people asking for recommendations on Facebook as well. Take those things seriously, because your reputation has a direct impact into how well you're going to show up in local search. Facebook we haven't seen a strong impact in terms of Facebook recommendations. Used to be reviews, it's now recommendations, helping you to improve your ranking on search. But absolutely, Google reviews definitely do. If you've got customers that are very accustomed to, like if you're in the home services business, if you've got a lot of customers that use Angie's List or Home Advisor as a trusted way to go find home contractors, then you need to put some emphasis in getting reviews written there as well. But don't forget about Google, because Google is what's going to get you showing up on the Google Map results. So it really is that's going to vary widely. If you're a realtor, getting a review on Zillow, or if you're a medical doctor getting reviews on Health Grades or sites like that, can be really important, because people go there and they review those sites and they look for providers and they read the reviews of those providers. And so don't forget about those. But I think in most cases you can't go wrong by focusing on getting Google reviews. So like I said, these statistics will all be available to you if you want to see them. So I do want to leave some time for some discussion. Here's the slide where we were talking about the uplift in responding to reviews. One of the things that's important to think about when you're going through the reviews, it's not just enough to go out there and get 50 5-star reviews 2 years ago. Because one of the factors that Google uses is this idea of what we call review velocity. And it literally is just how frequently and how many new reviews are you continuing to get on a regular basis. Google is going to want to see current reviews that are constantly being written about a business. If it sees that the reviews are all 2 years or older, or if I'm a reviewer and I go look and I'm trying to figure out who I want to do business with, and I see the reviews are 2 years old, that introduces just a little bit of doubt in my mind. Are these people still involved? I mean, do people care enough about their work to write a review about them anymore? The absence of reviews or the absence of current reviews speaks volumes. It leaves a vacuum that people can rush to assumptions. Don't let that happen. Take control of this process. Keep asking for new reviews. As a matter of fact, if you don't ask for reviews are going to tend to skew to the negative. And that's going to be hurtful to your business as well. It's not that people won't write a review if you ask them. It's just that as human beings, psychologically, we're more inclined, more often than not, to write a negative review than to write a positive review, because that negative thing sticks in our brains a little bit deeper. And we have a motivation to protect somebody else from a bad experience. And so we might go write a negative review. How many times have you guys been to a restaurant where the food was great? You didn't write a good review, but you did write a bad review when you had a bad experience. I mean, I think that's just human nature. Get into the process of asking. Make it a process. Train your sales force. Everybody who interacts with customers, make it a habit of having them ask for reviews. Send follow-up emails to ask for reviews. Send text messages. Whatever works for your business. Just don't let it happen, because if you do, they're going to skew to the negative, or you're not going to get any reviews at all, which also can be a negative factor in people's minds. Video testimonials. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this, but video is the most powerful form of content online right now. If you have video on your Google My Business page, that's definitely going to help you. Having a testimonial from a customer, a video testimonial, makes it real for people. It's not just words. It's actually somebody willing to put their face and their voice behind a review. That's a really important thing, and that just increases the trust factor. And this video content is the content that's shared a lot more online than just written text. So video testimonials, if you can get those from your clients, they can be fantastic. So don't forget about that. Make sure you think about it a little bit. I mean, we live in an era where, because we have smartphones, we always have a camera with us. So there's always a video opportunity. But think about, the lighting, the background, what's behind you, the audio quality. You don't want to create any distractions with your videos, but at the same time, you can be pretty guerrilla with your videos. They don't have to be these high-produced, super television commercial quality videos all the time. I think there's a time and a place for that, absolutely, but you don't always have to do that. So don't feel like, and don't keep from doing video just because of that. So I want to kind of draw out the differences that I see between a brick and mortar place of business that people go to type of business versus a service area business. So when you're thinking about, example is a roofing contractor versus maybe a shop down here on Main Street. Proximity for a shop is going to be a huge factor. I mean, it's just absolutely critical. Your Google My Business page, in all reality, is going to show up best probably in a 3 to 5 mile radius. If you remember the map listing that I grabbed for the Italian restaurant St. Charles search, it showed 3 results. Google now shows 3 results in the map results. We call that the 3-pack. You want to try to get into this 3-pack. But it's going to base that based on the proximity. It's not going to show me Canetto's, which is a great Italian restaurant in St. Louis, because it's too far away. It's not relevant to the search phrase that I typed in where I added St. Charles. So distance is a really big deal. Your business category is also going to be a critical thing that's going to determine how your map listing is going to show up. Relevance, we talked about, the content on your website. So if you're a service area business where you go to your customers and you maybe travel around a 25-mile radius, unfortunately you've got work to do. You can't just rely on your Google My Business page. That's going to work for you in a 3 to 5 mile radius typically, maybe a little bit further depending on competition, but probably not most of the time, unless you just have a phenomenally well-optimized Google My Business page. So what you're going to have to do there is you're going to have to write extra content and put it on your website. And you might have to join an additional chamber. You might have to join, if you want to do business in Kirkwood, you might have to join a chamber, in Kirkwood, Afton, somewhere down in that part of the world. But you're also going to have to write a page and put on your website that is like literally, and these all need to be unique pages, because Google is going to look at every page, and if your page isn't 70% unique content, you're wasting your time. You can't copy it and paste it from another company in another place either. And it needs to be focused around service your city. So if you're a emergency plumbing contractor, St. Charles, you need that page. But you also need emergency plumbing contractor Fallon, emergency plumbing contractor Wentzville, if those are important places for you to do business in. Unfortunately, you just have a bigger content burden when you have a service area because you're trying to draw from a much bigger geographical area. So, so keep that in mind. Think about these local services ads that I showed you, the rectangular ads. Those are going to be really important if you're serving an area as opposed to a place of business that people come to. Traditional Google ads, used to be called Google Adwords. Those are worth either type of business considering. Again, it has to make economic sense, so you're either going to have to sell a high volume of a low profit margin item to be able to justify paying for Google ads, or if you've got a higher ticket item, you don't have to sell as many, and the economics may still work for you because Google ads are going to be a cost per click, and so you're going to, not everybody who clicks is going to buy, so you have to figure out how many clicks do I have to get to the point where people are buying, and you have to track all of that. So think about those things. But if you're not ranking in the Google map, in the 3-pack, you might have to think about advertising to show up prominently on the first page of Google. And it's just a reality that we live in today. So I don't want to make you guys think it's just you can just go get on Google My Business and maybe that's all you need to do. Could be, but probably not. So with that, I want to ask you guys if you have any questions. I've done way too much talking, but hopefully you guys have found this to be helpful. And so if you guys have any questions, let me know.
So you talked a lot about reviews. What's a good review, ask for reviews, all that? Is there an easy way to send something? Is there a link to send your customers saying, hey, you are a review?
Yeah. So the question is there an easy way to make it as easy as possible to send a link to somebody to go write a review? The answer is yes. We use a variety of different tools where we can create basically review buttons on a website or a web page, and we send that one link to somebody, and then we can figure out where we want to direct people to. Every review site wants somebody to authentically log in and write a review. I mean, there are still a few sites that will allow you to go write a review where they don't ask you for your, to log in and prove you are who you say you are. Those are going away pretty quickly. They all, in order to write a Google review, you have to have a Google account. And so that's a deterrent for a lot of businesses that, it's like people do have Google accounts. If they have an Android phone, they have a Google account. They may not know it, but so you might need to develop a procedure to help coach people, but send them to a page on your website or a standalone page and give them don't overwhelm them with choices, give them 1 or 2 choices. Click this button to go write a Google review, and we call that a review funnel, and it just makes it a lot easier. You can actually, if you know the specific URL of where you want to send people to, and you only want people to go write Google reviews, you can find that URL and just send that to them. There are some tools that if you just did a Google search, I'm sure you can find a tool that would help you find that specific URL. Put it right into your email or into a text message. The URL is going to be long, so you're going to have to put it into a URL shortener. But you can send it out via text message. Make it a natural part of the, as soon as somebody buys and has that experience, that's the best time for them to go write a review. And so take advantage of that. If you're, as part of your sales process, maybe whenever you hand somebody their sales receipt, make sure you have printed on at the very top how they can go write a review for you with that URL. And maybe even train, if it's a restaurant, train your servers to ask people, hey, we'd really appreciate your feedback. If you'd be willing to go write a review for us, here's where you can go to do that. And just train your sales team, train your customer service folks, train your service technicians, whatever you need to do, but get reviews. Any other questions? Yeah.
So if you have multiple stores located in an area, say St. Charles, St. Peter's, O'Fallon, Winsville, would it be better for you to list your store as whatever your store's called and St. Charles County, or would it be better to have different listings for different specific locations in the city?
have a listing for every physical location you have a place of business at. Absolutely. It's more work. You know, there are probably some management tools that might make it easier for you to manage those. You can probably upload stuff, you know, for multiple location type businesses using, you know, a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet when you're doing that. But yeah, absolutely, every place of business that you have should have that. Now that's not, now if you're a service area business, I don't recommend that you set up a Google My Business page just because you have an employee who lives in Kirkwood and you let them use their address to create a Google My Business page, because that's really a violation of Google's Google My Business policy. But if they're, you know, if you have a place of business, you can use that as the address. Yes.
Do you recommend that for Facebook pages as well?
So Facebook pages probably not as important. It really depends on if you have a substantially different clientele. I think is probably more important for that. The reason that I think it's really important for not only for Google My Business listings, but also, you know, for all of these other directories that I talked about, you know, whether it's you know, a site like CitySearch or Manta or local.com. You want to go through and get directory listings back to your Google My Business page for every single Google My Business page you have. For Facebook, it doesn't help you show up on that map result. So it's really a matter of how your customers are going to be most likely to interact with you. Most businesses probably can pretty easily get away with their own page. But for example, if let's just take a Massage Envy, for example. There may be 2 Massage Envies in St. Charles County with completely different owners. They should each have their own Facebook page. If you have, if you're the owner of both of those, you could choose to just do it through one page. It's going to vary a little bit. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on that. I think it's really a matter of management, time management, content creation, managing engagement. It's easier to manage engagement when you have a bigger audience, and you're going to have a bigger audience if you've got 2 people from, you know, from 2 different stores going to a single Facebook page. So that might be an easier thing to consider, and that might be the thing that I would have skew it to just having a single page versus 2. But you could have 2.
Okay, so on Facebook, if you have multiple addresses in there, because I know it has their hours and their.
Yeah. Paul, do you know what Facebook is allowing to have? You know, for one business page, can you have multiple addresses? So it's right. It's still just tied to one address right now, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could put it in text, but it's not going to show up in searches inside of Facebook if you do it that way. And if you have the type of business where you think people are going to be searching in Facebook to find 2 unique pages tied to different addresses, then that'd be a reason why I would think about having 2 separate Facebook pages. Not a great answer, but you know, it just depends on what's the nature of your business.
I have 2 breweries.
2 breweries. So I create a Facebook page for each location, because you can do Facebook Live from the different locations, and you know that's going to perform really well. You could have customer testimonial videos that you post. Or you could have your brewmaster do videos from the location, and I think that's going to be really valuable. So I would probably recommend to you, without knowing all of the details, to have 2 separate pages. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm interested in starting up paid advertising for Google Ads. I was wondering if you have any recommendations on training before we dive into that. I just really need to know how to set up and build campaigns.
Yeah, that's a great question. The question is, what recommendations do you have before you set up a Google ad campaign? Are there any good training courses and things like that? So first of all, about Google Ads, do not take Google's default settings. Google is doing that unless you just need to get a campaign launched immediately. But don't forget about it, because Google is setting that up to be advantageous for Google more than they are being advantageous for you. So, Paul, in terms of Google training, any ideas? I mean, I would recommend doing searches on YouTube. I'm sure there are going to be a ton of sources. There are some really credible businesses. WordStream does a lot of really quality Patel is always a great source. So looking for anything that Neil Patel has written about Google Ads. In terms of actual training classes, Udemy, or however you say it, U-D-E-M-Y, is a great place for pretty inexpensive online classes, so you might start there if you wanted a little bit more structured and formalized program. That's probably a topic that I think makes a lot of sense to cover in an upcoming session, is to really focus on Google Ads, because they're really powerful. It is a way for you to guarantee that you're going to be able to show up at the top of search results for, on Google. And there's definitely a way that you can set these up, and there's definitely ways that you can cost yourself a lot of money. So if that's a topic, make sure you write that down, that you'd like to have covered in a future session.
Do not set up AdWords.
Yeah, so do not set up a Google AdWords Express account. That's a really, and the equivalent on Facebook is don't hit that boost a post button and think that that's going to get you the optimal results. Again, I can think of use cases why to do that. If you're a restaurant and it's 10:30 and you want to push out, or for your brewery, you want to push out, hey, here's the beer of the day, boom, hit that boost post, you're done. That's going to be fine. You're going to be able to set a radius, and it's going to be probably just fine for you. If you're trying to boost a post of people who are interested in James Hardy siding, and you want to try to get it delivered to the most relevant audience and not waste a bunch of money on cost, you need to focus on building a custom audience before you do that ad. But again, if you need to get something out right away, boosting the post is fine. Just realize it's better for Facebook than it is for you, probably. Any other questions? Was this helpful? Okay. All right. So we have evaluation forms, so I'd love it if you'd share your feedback, about my presentation, my style, whatever you're willing to share. We also, though, definitely want to make sure we have a topic for next month. We're meeting, let's see, I've got, actually, here's how you can get the slides. So if you just text MMM2-2019 to 33444, you'll be able to get the slide deck sent to you. And if you don't want to stay subscribed to our text list, which I will not abuse. I rarely use it. I only use it usually to deliver stuff like this. You can do it and stop after you get your slides delivered. I'm fine with that. It's just an easy way to deliver it to everybody. And then our next meeting is March 13th. So we're looking for topics. Does anybody have any topics that they would like to cover? We're also going to have to find a presenter because I won't be here. And I don't want to do all the presentations. I'm happy to do as many of them as you want me to, but I'm not doing this to be booking a monthly speaking engagement. I'm doing it to help you guys solve some challenges and maybe develop some education around marketing. So if there's anybody out there that would like to talk about, and you could be a business owner, just share what has worked well for you, that'd be great. If you want to be part of a panel, that would be awesome. If there's a specific topic like email marketing or Google Ads that you want us to cover, make sure you write that down. I'll work with Lori from the Chamber to figure out what the next topic is going to be and get that out here probably by the end of the week. I think you need it out by the end of the week, yeah. So, any other questions while we're waiting? Okay. All right, cool. Yeah.
Listing services like Yext?
Yeah.
Is recommended, or your own services?
Yeah, we're a Yext partner. We don't exclusively use Yext. There are probably 5 great services that I would recommend for consideration. Moz Local is good. Yext is fantastic. Bright Local is excellent. They all have pros and cons. I think Yext is a monthly subscription. As a partner, we have extra benefits and extra features that we can deliver for our clients. But it's for a restaurant or a place of business, it's got some amazing features. So Yext, by far, for restaurants or breweries, I think would be a really strong thing. White Spark is another one that I can think of, but Advice Local. I mean, there are several that are out there. They do cost money, but I think they're worth it because, you know, if you go out there and you do a search and you try to find all these listings, as a matter of fact, if you want to know how your site is currently listed online, we've got a free business listing tool on our website. If you go down into the footer of our website, which is ChangeScapeWeb.com, feel free to run that, and it will run a scan to show how your business is currently listed. I think it'll also pull in some information about some reviews on different sites, some of the sites that it scans and keeps track of reviews. But Yext is a fantastic platform. That's a good question. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming out. Is this helpful? I mean, do you guys, if you want to change formats, I mean, if you want to make it a lot more interactive, we're looking for feedback. I mean, this is kind of a new idea. This is, like I said, it's only our second meeting. So if there's something that you think we can do better, or different formats, you know, we'd love to have that feedback because this is really for you guys. Thanks. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it would be helpful because, like, I run my own page and I just go down. I mean, like, it's just whatever I found. So it's not copy and pasting. Thank you, that was a good one. But I guess it's like if you could kind of show some examples, like this is what, you know, a website, and then this, you know, and then we did this and look at that. You know what I mean? Or some things that kind of
Okay. Okay.
it's easier
Yeah.
to see it.
One of the topics that I think is important to consider coming up would be like key elements that you have on the homepage of your website. And you know, we could pull up some different websites and show here's an example of maybe a website that's maybe, you know, missing the mark a little bit. Here's an example of a really good, powerful website. That's something I love to talk about. So if that's a topic, you know, that I think that'd be a good one as well. So cool. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.
There's more pizza at the